I guess I really want to frame the issue. I often tell people that police are often and almost universally, uniquely the worst violators of FOIA. I just wanted to know, like, sort of, kind of what your view is of why that is, and all of the ways that police frustrate the public.
One thing I could say about the why is maybe because they're used to exercising impunity or enjoying impunity. I mean, throughout the culture of policing, we've seen a lot of just being above the law, being the person who gets to define the law. And when it comes to data about, or information or records or documents about their activities in enforcing the law, I think the police generally feel like they get to make the choices about what should or shouldn't be released. And in terms of techniques, obviously, like, there's a lot to list here, and I think
there are a handful of exemptions that police can cite in Illinois FOIA. Almost none of them are ever used properly. They exempt like a very, very small amount of information, and police departments try to use it for extremely large amounts of information. I guess most frequently nationally, I've seen something along the lines of invasion of personal privacy for either the officer, or sometimes they'll try to claim that on behalf of someone who's a victim of police force, or had filed a complaint against police, which in Illinois is not public information, but obviously can be easily redacted from a report, and the whole thing doesn't need to be withheld. And there's also obviously the
policing is like a incredibly transparent area of government to cover compared to the judiciary. So yeah, but I was at the Reader for 5 years, and the story that Freddy is mentioning was kind of a strange situation that I happened to witness personally one day, like coming out of my partner's home, where we basically saw like an illegal lockout attempt in the neighboring building, where some guys with guns who said that they were police were trying to extract a person who was having some mental health struggles and had been living there for a while. They were trying to like extract him from the apartment. And in the end, basically, I mean, the story started out with the basic question of like, well, who are these people? Because eventually the actual police, in uniform showed up, and there were a lot of conversations with like the landlord over Zoom about how what was happening was improper, and they couldn't just like lockouts are illegal at any point, but especially during a pandemic, like you couldn't just like just forcibly evict this person at gunpoint. But the most interesting thing that I observed that afternoon was also like the way that these officers were talking to the guys with guns, who were like plainclothes middle-aged men who claimed they were cops. So through some diligent use of FOIA, it turned out that these guys were not cops, but were retired cops. One of them, whose name I was able to get, turned out to be not even a licensed security guard. His license to do any kind of security work had lapsed years before that. And it also turned out that though on the scene, the police had like kind of like done what they were supposed to in terms of like stopping the lockout, allowing the person to come back into the apartment that they were living in, and like not allowing this process to proceed. In the police reports, they had like the narrative that they presented about what happened was just like lies. And the only way it was possible to tell that was because I was literally one of the witnesses who was on the scene, and one of several people who gave statements about like what we actually witnessed. So yeah, it was kind of an interesting, weirdly like something that intersected with my own personal life, and just showed that even, I mean, this was like such a nothing incident in the grand scheme of things, and it wasn't even classified as a criminal incident, but it was just a great example of how the police department, I mean, paperwork from the police department that you get through FOIAs or otherwise is just like rarely to be trusted, and how